Hey everyone, it's Matt here with Nightrun Studio, and so far in this series we've managed to get a whole bunch of data saving and loading. We can save player position and health, we can save enemies defeated, chests opened, and loot collected. We can even save which spell we used last. The only things remaining is that right now we're not saving player progression data and stats, and also if we leave the scene and spawn in somewhere else, our player literally doesn't show up because he plummets through space, put in the wrong scene when the wrong scene loaded. Anyways, that's where we're headed in this video. We're gonna add stats and progression as well as scene saving. Let's get started. So let's start this thing off in our save data where we can create some new data for us to store. Now we could put this in player persistence, however, player persistence is quickly threatening to become a god object that knows too much. So we're gonna create a new progression section. Now if we head to our progression manager, you can see that the only thing we actually need to save is our attributes. We've made these into their own integers here with power, vitality, focus, and agility, so we'll want to make sure that we record those. Also back in the progression manager, you can see that we keep track of our available points. We'll need to save those so that we don't get a fresh 5 points every time we load the game. So let's begin by setting that up. First of all, we'll make a public integer for our available stat points, and then we'll just save each of our stats. We'll have a public int for power, as well as one for vitality, focus, and agility. That's all we need to do here in the save data. Let's now head on back to the progression manager and actually get this saving. So first off, let's add the iData persistence interface here. And then in start, we're just gonna wanna make sure that we register this with the save manager. So let's use our surface locator to get the save manager, and then just tell that save manager to register this. That way it'll get a message whenever it's time for it to save or load data. You'll notice we've still got that red squiggly on our iData persistence, so in order to satisfy the interface, let's come on down to the bottom here where we'll make a special persistence section, and then we can go ahead and make our save data method. And let's also include our load data, remembering that both of these need to take in save data. That satisfies our iData persistence, and now let's actually make these do some saving. So this is going to be pretty straightforward. First of all, whenever we call the save data method here, we just want to make sure that our save data knows that its available stats points needs to be equal to the available points that this script's been tracking. We're then just going to save each of our individual stats. So our save data power value is just going to be equal to the base attributes for power, and we'll do the exact same thing for each of our other stats. Now with that done, we could run a test to see if this is saving, but let's go ahead and fill in our load method so we can do it all at once. So this is going to be largely our save data in reverse. Here we'll just take this script's available points and set it equal to whatever save data says we have as available stat points. We'll then take our base attributes, specifically for power, and make sure that they're set to be equal to whatever save data says our power should be. We can then do the same for our other attributes. Now at this point we're very close to finished, but we still need to update our UI and also send out the message to things like health, magic, and attack to let them know our stats have changed. So first of all, let's set our preview attributes, the one we'll see when we open our menu. They're going to be equal to our base attributes.clone. If you look in attributes, you'll remember that we have this clone method here that just makes an exact copy. That's because whenever we first load the game, the preview should be set to just look like our defaults. At this point then, we'll make sure that the starting points in this script are equal to whatever available points are left. We can then refresh all of our UI. And finally, we just want to make sure to notify all the systems waiting on our attributes and stats and let them know that they can now update based on the new stats. Now the only setup necessary is to make sure that we get rid of our save file. We can then hit play. I'll just take out this enemy to get him out of the way, then open up my attributes menu. Here I'll just throw in a whole bunch of vitality, make sure that I confirm, you'll notice my health updated, and then stop the game. Now we can go ahead and hit play. And as soon as I get in, you'll notice my health looks correct, and when I open up the menus, I have no points left, but the 5 points are still spent. All right, that's working great. Now we just need to make sure that when we go to the next scene, we remember to save which scene we're in. We can begin this by heading back to Save Data once more, and we're going to add yet another section here. This one's just simply going to be scene data, and it's only going to have one variable here, a public string for the last scene name. Now we can go into our Room Transition Manager, which is what handles anytime we change rooms, and make sure that it's using the iData persistence interface. As we did before in the start method, we'll make sure to use our service locator to get the save manager, and tell the save manager that we want to register this script. Again, that just makes sure that it gets a message whenever it's time to save or load data. Now, in order to satisfy our interface, we do need to come down below where we'll make a persistent section again, and we'll create a public void save data method that takes in a save data file, as well as a public void load data that also takes in a save data. Saving is very simple. Just when this is called, we want to make sure that our save data knows its last scene name is equal to this script's current room. Loading is just a little more complicated, as first of all we want to do a null check. So here we'll check if, note the not operator, we're just going to check if the string for room name is null or empty. Now it needs to know which string it's checking, so we'll let it know that we're checking save data's last scene name. So essentially, if there is actually a scene name saved, then all we want to do is make sure that we start the coroutine we have already called transition. Here, we'll pass along the last scene name, and then you'll notice that it's not happy with just that. If we go up to transition, you can see that it's also looking for a spawn ID. That said, we don't need to spawn at a specific door, we're just going to spawn into the place we saved at. And so here, we can come back down and just pass in an empty string. It'll know then that we don't have an ID, and it'll just go ahead and use the saved player position that's also saved in our save data. Back in Unity, let's go ahead and get rid of our saved file once again, and then we can hit play. Once again, I'll just defeat an enemy, open a chest, collect some stuff. Let's go ahead and select our second spell and then head on over to room 2. I'll just stand right underneath this big thing that's floating here, stop the game. Now first of all, we could go ahead and open up our save file here, and you can see down at the bottom that it's now saving that we are in fact in room 2. I'll close that up and we can hit play one more time. There will be a little bit of a stutter here as the scene catches up and loads, but you'll notice that our player's loading in the right position. All of his data is correct. Now that stutter might seem a little alarming. That said, we're only ever actually going to be loading a scene from the menu in the actual game. And when we load from the menu, we'll be hiding everything behind a nice fade in, so you'll never notice any of that. And actually that leads us to where we're headed in the next video. About all that's left to do here for our save system is make the ability for multiple save files, hook it all up so we can load from a main menu, and perhaps also just add a little disable for this whole persistence system so that when you're testing, you don't constantly have to delete your save files. That's where we're going to head in the next and final video of this series. Hope to see you then. Until that time though, this is Matt with Nightrun Studio. Cheers.